This duo will break the Premier League. What happens when you mix natural talent
Saka, the perfect start for the Gunners. They lead 1-0.
with darkness? That's the question every defender in England will be asking the moment they face Arsenal this season. Because Mikel Arteta has done something terrifying. Last year, he built the best defence in the Premier League. A wall, a unit. Organised and almost impossible to break. But now he's added the final piece. Not just any striker, but a machine bred for destruction.
Examples. The thing about Gyökeres, though, the rate at which he scores, nobody else has scored that much. He's scoring a stupid amount of goals, like an abnormal amount of goals.
Victor Gyökeres is not coming to learn. He's not here to adapt. He's arriving after a season where he scored 54 goals in all competitions. The year before, 43 goals in back-to-back seasons of consistency. Brutal finishing, relentless energy, and the best part is he won't be alone in this battle. Because on the right wing, ready to explode like never before, is the face of Arsenal's future, Bukayo Saka. Still only 23, Saka has already carried this team through injuries, setbacks and high expectations.
That's why I have mad respect for Bukayo, and yeah, I have a soft spot for him. He's my favorite player. He's been there for a long time. He's so nice. I never thought he was going to reach the level that we're seeing him. He's a starter for England, he's a starter obviously for Arsenal. I remember when he started at the beginning, he was playing wing back on the left, on the right, wherever there was a position he was playing in, he was doing well. And the evolution of his game is just outstanding.
But this season something changes. He doesn't have to do it all by himself. Now he has a true partner. Someone who fixes defenders in place, who opens up space, who lets Saka do what he does best: cut, accelerate and punish. Since 2018, Arsenal fans have waited for a striker who could score more than 20 goals a season. Since Aubameyang, they've searched for someone to finish the job.
9 league goals last season. Do you know who scored 39 league goals over the last 20 years across Europe? Not many players.
Yeah, no.
Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi, Luis Suarez and Lewandowski. Those are the only players that have hit those numbers.
But this isn't about repeating the past. This is about building a future. One that starts with fire, chaos and 2 men who were born for the big moments. Gyökeres and Saka will destroy defences this season. And this time, there are no excuses. Arsenal has the defence. Now it has the firepower. And the Premier League better be ready. Gyökeres changed the perception of how we see a centre forward. For 2 straight seasons, this man has been terrorising defenders across Portugal, racking up 97 goals in just over 8,400 minutes, basically averaging a goal per game. Those numbers aren't just great, they're insane. And the way he gets them, that's the real story. We're talking about a striker who's a wrecking ball with the brain of a surgeon. He crashes into channels, bulldozes centre-backs, and still finds a way to strike the ball clean, crisp and deadly. Watching him play is like watching a tank breakdance. It's violent, it's explosive, and somehow it's graceful. But here's the question everyone's asking. Will this madness work in the Premier League? Because this isn't Portugal. This is the toughest, fastest, most physical league on the planet.
This is not a situation about give him time, bed him in, let him adjust. No. He needs to go in there and start scoring goals straight away, because when you look at the history of the Premier League titles, they always have an attacker that scored at least 20 Premier League goals.
This is where great reputations go to die. And Arsenal, they're not just bringing Gyökeres in to be another striker, they're bringing him in to be the guy, the final piece, the one who unlocks the title.
His level of productivity and consistency needs to be at the level of Salah and Erling Haaland. Now that's historic levels, but that's what it's going to take for Arsenal to turn those games that you mentioned, those draws, into wins, and to turn those single points into 3 points, and to actually be there in the end where they think they should be.
Last season, Victor Gyökeres didn't just perform, he exploded. 54 goals and 13 assists, adding up to a mind-blowing 67 goal contributions in a single season. That's not just good, that's freakish. That's video game stats in real life.
No, from Victor Gyökeres, if we're really honest with ourselves, because none of us are sitting back watching the Portuguese league every weekend. We're not doing it, okay? And that's the truth, right? And anybody that tells you, I'm all about it. Oh, I know what's happening between Sporting and Gil Vicente. Yeah, no, you don't.
Because lighting up the Portuguese league is one thing, but doing it under the lights at Anfield or the Etihad, That's a whole different beast. If we want a glimpse of how Gyökeres performs against real Champions League level opposition, we've got to look at his matches against Porto and Benfica, the two giants of Portugal, both regulars on the European stage. And guess what? He held his own, scored against Porto in a 2-0 win, registered an assist in a 1-0 win over Benfica. Then, in a later game, came off the bench for 21 minutes after a muscle issue and went quiet in a 1-1 draw against Porto. But in the final clash with Benfica, another assist. We could say it was another solid performance, and that's just league play. In cup competitions, when the pressure's high and the stakes are real, he stepped up even more. In the Allianz Cup semi-final, a goal against Porto to seal the win. In the final versus Benfica, he tied the game, forced penalties, and buried his own spot kick. Though Sporting ultimately lost 8-7, and then came the big one, Taça de Portugal final. Another goal, another victory, another trophy. So yeah, against elite domestic teams, he hasn't gone missing. He's shown up.
Oh, it's what we have seen in Champions League from Victor Gyökeres. And we have the lasting image of how silly he made Manchester City look.
He delivered again, 6 goals in the tournament, scoring every 101 minutes, including a wild hat-trick against Manchester City that shocked everyone.
Gyökeres through on goal again!
But then you ask yourself the question, well, who didn't make Manchester City look silly last season defensively?
He also hit goals against Lille, Sturm Graz and Leipzig, finishing the campaign with a conversion rate of 25%, even outperforming his expected goals of 4.59. Bottom line, Gyökeres doesn't just feed on the weak. He hunts giants too.
Right? Because, I mean, his goal output is not normal. Even for players that have been touted as top players in the Primeira Liga in Portugal that have come to the Prem and kind of flopped. Some have, some haven't. But none have been as good as this guy in the Portuguese top flight. So everything you're saying, I see it. The physicality, the recognition of the spaces, playing in between the lines, dropping back, combining. His passing is really good. His finishing is really good. He has so many tools in his back pocket. I've been so eager to see him take that next step in his career because the season before this one was also crazy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a new test, a more difficult test at Arsenal if it is to happen.
Of course.
Because yeah, Victor Gyökeres looks like a beast. But football fans know better than to fall for the hype without asking the hard questions. What if this is just another Darwin Núñez situation?
Not many forwards from Portugal come out of the league and do really well. And he's got a lot of goals against the lower end.
Let's rewind the tape. Darwin came out of Benfica with numbers that looked unstoppable. 34 goals and 4 assists in his final season in Portugal, with 26 of those goals in the league alone. Liverpool dropped serious cash, thinking they were getting the next big thing. And what happened? His first Premier League season, 9 goals and 3 assists. Respectable, but nothing close to what was expected. Across all competitions, he barely hit 15 goals. The following season, 2023-24, was a step up, 11 goals and 10 assists in the league. Not bad at all. But then came 2024-2025 and the flames started to fizzle. Just 5 goals and 3 assists in 30 Premier League games, ending the season with 7 goals and 7 assists in all competitions. Not the numbers you'd expect from a top-tier striker in one of the best attacking teams in the world. And Darwin's not alone. Remember Carlos Vinicius? He was the top scorer of the Primeira Liga in the 2019-20 season, banging in 18 goals for Benfica. Spurs took a chance and brought him in on loan. What did they get? 1 lonely goal in 9 Premier League games. That's it. The point is, success in Portugal doesn't always translate to England.
I get you, because there have been examples of players going from Portugal abroad and it hasn't worked out, but I don't think it's specifically a trend because you could find other examples, like Radamel Falcao, for example, was extraordinary everywhere he went after Portugal.
Look at Man United.
Apart from, but who did well at Manchester United? Like, I think that's a Manchester United issue rather than a Radamel Falcao issue.
It's a different game, faster, more physical, more brutal. You don't get as much time on the ball. The defenders are smarter, the presses are heavier, and the pressure's insane. So yeah, Gyökeres looks like a juggernaut right now, but Arsenal fans know better than to pop the champagne too early. But there's another angle to this whole thing, one that Arsenal fans feel deep in their bones. It's been years since the Gunners had a real killer up top, a striker with that dangerous at every touch vibe. someone who makes defenders panic just by standing near the box. You'd have to go back to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Back in 2018-19, Auba lit up the Premier League with 22 goals and 31 across all competitions. Then he did it again the next season, 22 more in the league, 29 overall. That stretch wasn't just flashy stats, it brought real silverware. He scored a brace against Manchester City in the FA Cup semi-final.
Aubameyang for 2! He's done it!
And another brace in the final against Chelsea.
Aubameyang! It's still Aubameyang!
He was that guy. Since then, Arsenal's had good forwards, hard-working, technical, talented, but none of them had that ruthless streak, that electricity in the box, that guarantee of goals in clutch moments. And that's what Gyökeres is supposed to bring back. Gyökeres has played in England before, with Brighton, Swansea and Coventry. And yeah, back then, he wasn't the monster he is today. No dominant stats, no top-flight domination. Just a raw, hard-working striker trying to find his place.
6 years from now, it's about scoring now, and it's like, this guy's either going to be a superstar or he's going to be a flop, it feels like, right? There's only 2 avenues to go through because the expectations are so high, and you mentioned the championship, that it's higher rated than Portugal. Well, he actually did score in the championship. When he was at Coventry City, he scored a decent amount of goals. His output was pretty decent, and this is from a couple of years ago now at this point. But to prove that this guy has kind of taken steps in his career, and it's not like this is unwarranted. Yeah. So I'm excited to see how it translates into the Premier in a high-pressure situation.
Back when he played for Coventry City, he showed what happens when you give him minutes and confidence. In the 2021-22 season, he scored 18 goals and added 5 assists. Then the next year, he cranked it up, 22 goals, 12 assists in 2022-23. That's production. He even helped Coventry reach the Championship playoff final. They lost on penalties to Luton, but the statement was made. Gyökeres was climbing. Season after season, he's gotten better and better. More goals, more danger, more fire. The trend is clear. He's rising fast. But now we have to ask the real question. How does he fit into Mikel Arteta's system? Gyökeres is used to playing in high-speed counter-attacking systems. He thrives when he has space to run into. He doesn't drop deep to link up play. He wants to attack, full speed ahead. He wants to destroy, and he loves drifting into wide areas, which is unusual for a pure striker. But it works for him. He pulls defenders out of position, creates chaos, and builds plays all on his own from the flanks. Last season, he made 85 sprints behind the defensive line at a pace of 25 km per hour or more. That's more than double any other striker in Portugal. Even in the Premier League, no one comes close. Nicholas Jackson leads there with 61. So what's the issue? The Premier League doesn't give you that kind of space. Defenders are faster, smarter, tighter. The question becomes, can Arteta adjust the system to make Gyökeres lethal, even without open grass ahead? Well, last season Arsenal didn't have a true number 1. 9 for most of the year. That forced Arteta to improvise with fluid wide attackers, constantly switching positions, like Trossard and Martinelli, trying to confuse defences with quick interchanges. But here's the problem, defenders weren't afraid. There was no natural striker to pin them back. No one with that aura of, I might score at any second. Without that threat, the opposing backlines could step higher and read the play more comfortably. That's why at some point, Mikel Merino even became a false 9. And it actually worked for stretches. He's smart, great with the ball, knows how to drop deep and pull defenders, opening space for midfielders and wingers to crash the box. What does Arsenal look like when Arteta finally has a real striker again? Alright, let's break it down. Mikel Arteta has tactical variants in his pocket, and all of them could make Gyökeres terrifying. Option 1, the classic trio. The most straightforward plan. Gyökeres as the central striker, Bukayo Saka wide on the right, Gabriel Martinelli on the left. It's clean, it's dangerous, and it brings back that natural shape Arsenal leaned on so well last season. This trio would be supported by a classic formation of 4-3-3. Option 2, Arteta's vintage Arsenal. Back when Arsenal had Aubameyang and Lacazette, Arteta used a sneaky system. It looked like a 4-4-2, but turned into a 3-4-3 in attack. Gyökeres up front, being the battering ram. Havertz and Odegaard floating underneath hybrid second strikers or aggressive midfielders. Saka staying wide right, exactly where he causes the most damage. On the left, maybe Martinelli, Madueke or even Trossard. In the middle, you've got a double pivot, think Declan Rice alongside Zubimendi or Norgard rock solid. At the back, a flexible 3 of Saliba, Gabriel and either Mosquera or Timber, all capable of covering ground, building from the back and pushing the line high. But more than the formation, it's the player movement that makes it click. In Arteta's early Arsenal days, the system was all about fluidity, fullbacks bombing forward, wingers cutting inside, midfielders shifting into unexpected spaces. That's what Arteta might bring back. With Gyökeres pinning both centre-backs, Arsenal can finally stretch the field vertically, open the half spaces, and bring back that terrifying unpredictability they lacked in 2024 to 2025.
There was many times last season where Arsenal are not particularly playing well, but you need a striker to sniff out a goal. And that's what we didn't have, because Havertz, he come deep a lot. But I think it's more important than any signing we've ever had, because he can get those scrappy goals.
But this other issue, even if Arteta returns to his old system, in which there was a lot of movement throughout the attack, does not guarantee that Gyökeres will score 20 or more goals.
For him, Arsenal don't get the space to run in behind very often that he excelled in. They don't play teams of the level that he scored most of his goals in. Everything you guys said was spot on. It is really important to add goals to this team, no doubt, based on what they had last season, and they needed a superstar striker. Gyökeres was maybe the best that was available on the market. But look, Mikel Arteta has always said Arsenal are not probably going to win the league by having that one player that wins the Golden Boot. He wants his team to spread the goals around. When they've really pushed for the title, it's been Saka getting 15, Ødegaard, Martinelli the same, and I kind of think that's what we'll end up seeing from Gyökeres.
Even if Gyökeres scores 20 plus goals in the Premier League, it doesn't guarantee Arsenal the title. Just last season, Alexander Isak had a fantastic campaign. He dropped 23 goals in the league, world-class numbers, and yet Newcastle finished 5th. Same with Erling Haaland. We know what the Norwegian cyborg can do. He still scored 22 goals in the 2024-25 Premier League season. But Manchester City, they ended up 3rd. You need more than a killer striker to dominate it. You need chemistry, timing, balance, and most importantly, a partner in crime. And that's where Bukayo Saka comes in.
Gone round him, Diaz, this is danger, still Diaz, great.
Bukayo Saka has been one of the most important and consistent players for Arsenal's attack in recent years. Since 2019, he's steadily grown into the face of the club, delivering not just creativity, but also goals and assists in big moments. His best season so far came in 2023-24, where he scored 20 goals and provided 14 assists in the Premier League alone. That's 34 direct goal contributions, a world-class number that shows how influential he's become. But here's the issue. Arsenal depends too much on him. And that's not just a casual observation, it's backed by numbers. Last season, only 32.9% of their attacking touches came from the left wing. That was the lowest left side usage among all Premier League teams. Meanwhile, 43% of their attacks came down the right flank, where Saka operates. The remaining 24% happened through the centre of the pitch. That imbalance tells the full story. Arsenal simply hasn't built enough threat on the left or in central areas. Everything flows through Saka. And then came the nightmare scenario. He got injured. During the 2024-25 season, Saka missed a total of 21 matches due to a thigh injury. He wasn't available for some of the most crucial moments of the year, including the 3rd round of the FA Cup against Manchester United and the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. Even more damaging, he missed key league games against top 6 opponents like Tottenham, Manchester City, Manchester United and Chelsea, plus a tricky clash with Bournemouth. Without him, Arsenal's entire right-sided attack collapsed. They couldn't progress the ball as fluidly, the threat in wide areas dropped significantly, and there was no one to consistently step up in his absence. The team became easier to predict and easier to stop. But what happens when Bukayo Saka is fully fit and ready for big nights? That's when Arsenal becomes something else entirely. That's when their number 7 turns into the most dangerous weapon in their entire arsenal. Let's go back to the Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid, the moment that reminded the world who Bukayo Saka really is. After being out for nearly 3 months with a thigh injury, Saka made his return to the starting 11 in the first leg at the Emirates. No warm-up, no hesitation, just immediate impact. From the first whistle, he was electric. By the end of that 3-0 win, Saka had led the entire match in progressive carries with 6. He was also 5th overall in involvement during attacking sequences. His heat map told the full story. He was everywhere down the right flank, combining constantly with Ødegaard, White and Rice. And every time he touched the ball, Real Madrid's defence looked shaky. Twice he drew fouls that Declan Rice turned into perfect top corner goals. That wasn't coincidence. It was Saka putting defenders in impossible positions, again and again. And then came the second leg at the Santiago Bernabeu. In that 2-1 victory, Saka showed another side of his game. At times times he drifted more centrally, helping Arsenal progress through the middle when Madrid tried to overload the wings, but he never lost his explosiveness. On every counter-attack, Saka was the one leading the charge, and when it mattered most in the second half, he found space between Madrid's lines and struck the second goal, calmly placing the ball past Courtois after a perfectly timed run. This is the thing. If you're not ready for Saka, he will dismantle your defensive structure piece by piece. Whether he's wide on the right or popping up centrally, whether it's 5 minutes in or deep into stoppage time, he's a problem you can't solve. That's Arsenal's biggest problem, and their biggest opportunity. Bukayo Saka is clearly their best player, the most dangerous man on the pitch every time he plays. But that's also the issue. Everything runs through him. Too much, too often. And that kind of pressure can wear down even the most elite talents. That's why Victor Gyökeres isn't just coming to score goals, he's coming to change the shape of Arsenal's attack, to open up space, to drag defenders out of position, to give players like Saka, Trossard, Havertz, Madueke and Martinelli the room they need to breathe and create. He fills the gaping hole Arsenal has carried at the centre of its front line. A true number 9, finally. With Gyökeres constantly making sharp runs in tight spaces and Saka bursting down the right wing, Arsenal could finally have one of the most complete attacks in Europe. You'll have raw pace, clever passing, one-on-one threats on both flanks, and now a striker who can finish plays or start them himself. This is what Mikel Arteta's system has been missing, but there's pressure too. Gyökeres needs to adapt fast. He'll have little time to settle in. Arsenal opens the season against Manchester United, a heavyweight clash from day one. And Arteta knows that to make this work, he must get Gyökeres and Saka clicking from the very first minute. No experiments, no delays. This attack has to be ready. Because if it works, if Gyökeres becomes the force he's shown he can be, if Saka stays healthy and continues to terrorise fullbacks across the league, then Arsenal might finally have what it takes to win the Premier League. Speed, power, goals. A new striker who can create chances out of nothing, a winger who can break any defence. For the first time in years, Arsenal has both. Now it's up to Mikel Arteta to put the pieces together and chase the title they've been dreaming of.